Today on Making It in Manufacturing Spotlight Series, I'm joined by Renato Panza, the Head of Digital Technology, QA and Quality Engineering at Galapagos. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Thomas. Thank you very much for having me.
No, thank you for joining. So to start with, can you give our listeners a quick overview of your current role at Galapagos?
Yeah, in my role, my team is oversighting the CSV activities. So I have quality managers in that group. I have the quality engineering team that is overlooking the CQV, so the equipment qualification, and also the global tech support that is performing the qualification for equipment, facilities, and utilities at the Galapagos sites.
Got you. And your career has led from validation, compliance, digital systems. What led you down that path from your career?
I think that is I got like very interested in the different areas in the companies, and I started in a company that was doing media contrast for radiology, and my last job was in cell and gene therapy. So you see a different set of processes, technologies, and business needs, and so that is evolving constantly. So it makes the job quite interesting.
Yeah, no, nice. And within specific equipment qualification, which I know is a topic you're vastly experienced in, with the amount of new facilities that are being built across Europe and the US at the moment, I know firsthand a lot of challenges that come with that, from finding the right talent for these projects. So from your perspective, what are some of the challenges that businesses are facing when it comes to equipment qualification on new sites or even OpEx type projects?
I think that the challenges are starting very early. We have like, for example, of Galapagos, problem with the design of the facilities. And that is like you start already that you have to fix the problems before you can even start like qualifying the site and so on. And funnily enough, two sites around our building had similar issues. One that prevented even like a tech transfer of a product.
Wow.
And it was an investment of like a few hundred millions. So if you don't get the design right at the beginning, you will always have like to carry these problems. But I think that when you finally go into the qualification, it's important to have like good suppliers, and of course like having like the right talent for performing that.
So when you mention the design of the sort of qualification, what do you really mean by that?
So the design of the facility, our facilities have for like aseptic production, and so if you don't get the design of the clean room right, then you always have to go back and you have to have like a number of deviation and requalification and so on, and every time that you touch the clean rooms is you have to perform like a full qualification from the beginning. So this is where is adding a lot of extra effort to the activities.
And is that designing in terms of where the equipment is positioned within the clean room, or designing of the process?
The layout of the
Like-
facility, yes. So if you have like the wrong pressure cascade and so on, and the wrong like process flow for material and people, you always have like a number of issues.
I have heard some horror stories of in some companies where they've like put a door where and it opens to where they're meant to get to the equipment and they can't use the equipment because the door's there. And you're like, how is that even possible when teams don't communicate for things? Have you got any stories like that you've seen over the years?
Yeah, we had like a facility that was like pushing like the dirty air inside the clean room. So that is a good way of having like a good environmental monitoring findings. Yes.
How did that? It blows my mind how that design aspect can't get right at the beginning. But I guess is it because the qualification or the engineering teams aren't involved in the design process, the architectural stage is where that's typically the problem.
Sometimes it's just a matter of like fixing parameters and so on. Then that is like easier to fix. But in the same example, it's like when you have like really the layout that is wrong, that is not possible, or where you don't have like the right segregation between people and material. So that can really be like a problem.
Yeah, is that the engineering construction company that gets brought in to do it? Is it their fault, or is
I think it is probably like the facility team that is designing or that is commissioning the design of the layout to different engineering companies, and not everybody has like the right experience for the pharma business. So they might be good for standard areas like warehouse and so on, and supply chain and labs. But when you arrive like in this type of situation, then you need to have companies that are expert in that.
and how crucial is the vendor documentation when you get to the SAT type phase of for equipment qualification?
It's very important because if you have a supplier that is aware of like the compliance requirements, and these are embedded in their documentation, it makes like your life much easier. Also, to leveraging their documentation to support like your qualification activities. I think that also this one you start early with like engaging with the audit team in order to select the right supplier and to be involved at the right time. Otherwise, you get like a business bringing a supplier that might be good on paper, but when you start to really work with them, they are like lacking the necessary compliance knowledge.
Sure. You can see how them issues cause money and time for people to rework and to do these things. And when it comes to equipment qualification, do you tend to use a standardization approach, or is there tons of different ways that you can conduct it?
We try to keep it like standardized. I think that is important, like how you apply your risk base to qualification for equipment, because otherwise you might end up like in over qualifying simple equipment that might be just sufficient to commission. But if your framework is not clear enough, then you might be going down like a very conservative route.
I think there's a thing that you can qualify everything.
Yeah.
You can create more and more needed for it. So, with the advancements within technology, digital systems, integrating with equipment these days, how challenging is it to qualify the equipment as well as the system? I know they're different.
So it's quite challenging, especially when you have systems that are equipment that are developed as a standalone, and then suddenly they evolve with like a controlling software, and suddenly evolve with like an external software that is controlling like multiple units. It's very difficult to define the boundaries between systems and see like what is a fully fledged computerized system and what is controlling software within the equipment. So the life cycle, we tried to have it like as overlapping as possible. So then we have like a similar deliverables, but sometimes some specification documentation and testing, they just fall like between like the two areas. So that is the difficult part.
I think the new process control guide, I think that's been released, I think this week from ISPE, should I think help with that. It goes into the topics around the system as well as the equipment and how to move forward with them. What are some of the biggest confusions around qualification activities from an engineering standpoint as well as software validation?
We have equipment that can work as standalone with software, but at the same time, the same example that I was mentioning before, the supplier release a a software to control like multiple equipment. And in there we had like problems because some requirements were the same for the equipment as well as for the software. But we had to find a way to see which one was the one leading and the other which was the master and the servant. So that was quite challenging, especially because they follow like two slightly different framework, and especially when you have like traceability and testing, was difficult to bring that like all together. So that is the challenge that we have seen with one of the equipment that we have at the site.
And what did you do to overcome that challenge?
We had to decide like which was the leading system between the two, and then like by then which was the documentation that was like supporting and the one that was like the leading one. And it was the one for the equipment because the software was doing like very little. It was controlling like some of the access management and so on, important, but compared to all the functionalities, so we had to tend to for the equipment. Yes.
And who should really own the validation of software embedded within manufacturing equipment? Is it IT automation? Is it quality?
My opinion should be like engineering/automation. So it's always like every company have like a different way of handling that. And quality should be, let's say, the liaison between like IT and OT. So in my experience, I was lucky to have both the CSV and the quality engineering team, because then I can really see what was happening like between the two areas and where were the point of contact, because data are flowing from like the very simple system up to more complex software within like the company. So having like the right connection between the different systems and the different quality and compliance function is for me very important.
I mean, when it comes to being accountable for something, if there's potentially a couple of departments who could be accountable, could often lead to conflict, challenges around that. So, and is that quite common in a lot of businesses, or you're, I don't know if you're quite lucky to sit across the 2 or 3 of the departments where that would be accountable for, but yeah, is that something that can cause problems within businesses?
I feel that is on the supporting function being compliance and engineering and IT, there is like a fair, clear definition of the roles. I think that is gets like a little bit more complex with the business ownership of systems, and then is when it's causing like most of the problem, because you don't know who is the business owner that should provide like the requirements for the system.
Yep. And there's a lot of discussion around computer systems assurance replacing traditional sort of CSV approaches. Do you think that will improve things? Do you think it's not needed? What's your thoughts on that?
I can give you an example. We had a computerized system that was the electronic batch record system, as well as like the MES, so the manufacturing execution system. And when I joined the company, this was like part of the R&D team. But then it's like as the product moved along, we had also to step up with like the validation of the software. And in the initial validation, we applied like a full CSV scope, because we had like gaps with the business process, gaps with the documentation, with the supplier, and so on. And so that took us like a long and painful year to get like there, because we also had like changes in between and so on. But when we knew already that the software had to go through like a complete redesign, and we were preparing for that. But when we had like the version 2 of the system, we switched to a more CSA-like approach, where we embedded like risk management in the definition of the user requirements, And also we adapted our testing methodology to fit with the risk management. So then we could really focus on the requirements that had either an impact on product quality, patient safety, or data integrity, and also depending on the complexity of the functionality, if it was out of the box, customized or configured, to see like which was like the right level of testing. So, and then we went from scripted to unscripted. So I think that cut down the validation of the system from 1 year to 4.5 months.
Wow. Yeah.
And we had and we also had like an external testing team with like 6-7 people. And with that, and we also added some automation, some testing automation. We had like a free tester doing that. So, but in order to do that, it was critical and crucial to have the knowledge of the business process. So all the pain that we had before was paying off like at a later stage. So this is where, for me, you can move to more CSA if you have like a strong knowledge and understanding of your system, as well as also of your framework.
Well, amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time and sharing some of your experience and knowledge.
Thank you very much.
Enjoy the conference.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.